U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is hosting 37 African foreign ministers and the African Union here in Washington. Ambassador Donald Yamamoto, acting Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, spoke to me about the upcoming conference. In part two of our conversation, I asked him what the U.S. position is on African countries that are stable but yet repressive.
Find that governments that are accountable to its people are the governments that really survive. So you don't have crises, you don't have evacuation of foreign nationals or even refugee flows. And so this instability is caused by insecurity and other challenges, and these are the things that we're trying to help these countries address.
Now, recently, the main opposition leader of Kenya, Raila Odinga, was in Washington. One of the things he's saying is that the West seems to be just complacent with African nations being peaceful, but nobody cares so much about the level of justice. Now, is there a feeling like sometimes the bar is set a bit low because of the history of the continent and such that countries like Ethiopia, Uganda and others can be given a pass as long as the country is together, is peaceful?
No, because instability in any one area is an instability in that region and has impact throughout the continent and also beyond the continent. So if we look at the interrelatedness of Africa to the world economy and also to world security, it's obvious. Look at the resources that Africa is providing developing countries, from China to Iran to Russia, even to other countries. That really underscores the importance of Africa in development.
People are concerned about the PEPFAR, for instance, program that started way back during the President Bush time, and there have been concerns of reduction of any kind of funding in the health area. What is the status of things now?
The fundamental issue is that health continues to dominate about 80 to 81% of total assistance levels to Africa. But I wouldn't call it assistance, I call it investments. And the reason why it's an investment, because it's investing in the future of Africa. And healthcare is really one of the major focal points that we have partnered with Africa on.
For some of our viewers, they'll like to know how do you see the continent? Do you see it as one big block, or do you isolate some of the issues and address them according to regions and individual countries?
Yeah. So we look at it, first of all, prior to the ministerial, we're going to have a high-level dialogue with the African Union. So we look at the African Union as one means for addressing broad-based issues in all of Africa. Then we look at the sub-regional organizations, ECOWAS, SADC, EAC, IGAD, as another mechanisms, a means for addressing particular areas in the region. Then we look at other sub-regional groups like the G5, which is a security complement. Then we look at certain other aspects. So it's a very complex, very expansive approach, and it's not one size fits all, and it's not Africa is a large continent with 53 countries and very complex issues that goes from north to south, east to west to central, and we have to address each issue very carefully.
There are some who, whenever there's an issue, say South Sudan and other places, will say the U.S. has abandoned us, or the U.S. is not doing enough. What do you tell them?
Every area of insecurity and instability, again, affects not only the region but the entire continent and beyond. We address those very carefully. As you know, Ambassador Nikki Haley, our ambassador to the UN, just recently made a trip to South Sudan. We, as diplomats, have gone to South Sudan and Sudan and the regions very in concert to see how we can address those problems.
How important is Africa as far as the U.S. foreign policy is concerned?
If you have a population, the largest continent in the world, but also 25% of the labor force is going to be African. And if you're going to have economic output at 500 billion today on manufacturing output, and it's going to be well over $1 trillion, that's an economic opportunity you cannot oversee. that has to be part of the calculus of anyone's economic development. And that's why we're so excited about expanding our relationship, not only just through AGOA, through investments, but also looking at how we can play a stronger partnership that's more dynamic and integrated and looks at every facet of the African, from societies to economies to politics to really the daily life, rather than just looking at the continent as a economic development plan. It's not. It's more complex, and the people of Africa deserve a much better deal. And that's the deal we're working on.